Let me show you how an innovative tool that I've built that uses AI for your teaching needs, for your parental needs, for your student needs, even if you're a self-learner, to build very powerful, very flexible lesson plans based on your needs, on your psychological aspects and emotional intellect. Let me show you how EduBlender works for individuals and groups of students and teachers. EduBlender is now in the testing phase. It's available on edublender.com. And if you want to be in the testing team, because it launches commercially in January, you can write me a direct message and I will give you your testing email and password. EduBlender is my innovative tool for educators and learners and students and parents, which can use AI to generate your unique and most effective course for learning. So let me show you how it's done. Let's say you have, so everybody has a learning persona here. This is a completely depersonified system. You don't have any personal data here. You don't you don't even post anything to EduBlender. There's nothing that you can post or disrupt or, offend someone, none of this. And there, of course, are different color themes. Of course, you can't live without color themes. So let's say I have a learning persona, and when I create my learning persona, let me show how it's done. I can erase and create it again. So let me point that I'm a male, some of my visual and learning styles, what I like to do. So it basically gauges my learning preferences. What do I do in different situations? It determines my emotional intellect somewhat. And there we go. So it gives me a summary and give me some basic information about myself. And now I can use it to build classes out of learners and to generate for these classes different interesting lesson plans or learning paths or even career paths. It's good for individual learners, for students, teachers, and even administrators of big educational establishments. So I created a cluster already. You can select animated icons. So as I said, you don't upload anything to it. Everything you need is already here. If you need an animated avatar, it's already there. If you need an interactive tool for teaching something, it's already there, and you will be able to get many more tools for learning and teaching inside. So let me show you one tool, let's say, for teaching mathematics creatively. So this is a sound synthesizer which teaches you basic trigonometry like formulas, sine and cosine waves, but using visualization of sound. So here's we have some sound here, right? And it synthesizes like a sine wave. And here we see a formula for it. We can modulate this sine wave, and which adds a different part to the formula. The screen is a little bit small for me now. So see, I use modulation, and I see in the formula how and what specifically changes. See? I can use a different sine wave, I can use different frequencies. So that's the kind of tool for visualization of mathematics and things like that. There are tools for literature here, like this, for instance. This is an interactive game I wrote in JavaScript, and it's a little bit of in the style of David Lynch. So this is for teaching literature and cinematics, like cinematography. This is an interactive dialogue with the fictional weird character in the style of David Lynch. Well, I did it for myself as a toy, but actually you can see what is possible, in what kind of tools will be available here. So for different subjects, different topics, using AI. But now let's get back to managing lesson plans with the use of AI. So I have my class, and I also have my assets. It's something that I have in my school or my cabinet. It's like interactive whiteboard or some gadgets, whatever. Even cleaning and hygiene, you know, or cooking utensils. Anything that I have handy that I can use for learning. So the AI will understand all of that when it creates my my lesson. So I have a cluster, right? I am a curator here, and I'm a lead curator. It says here there's also another curator who's on standby to, you know, to avoid conflicts, because only lead curator in a class can change anything here. If I want to be another curator to be lead, so I give him pass or make lead, so I can make that other curator lead curator, and then he will or she will introduce changes. And then there are learners. I can see some learners here, and they don't have learning persona yet, whatever. But I have goals for my cluster. So how do I create cluster, and what do I mean creating goals? So let's set up a learning cluster now. First, I select an age range, right? Because in a school, you know, age range is usually no more than 2 or 3 years within one class, right? So that's why it keeps within the same constraints. Or I can unblock this gap. I have a completely multi-age group. I have young learners and I have old learners, everything in one place. Okay, the AI can take care of that as well. Next, I choose the approximate number or duration of my learning cluster. Let's say like 2 weeks. It can be 2 years, whatever. Next, very important, I select what kind of skills I need for that learning project. I can look for them in the field here, or I can select from this encyclopedia. So I want to teach digital literacy, and I want to teach spreadsheet like Excel. Creative skills like creative writing, and I want music composition. All right, there will be many more here to populate. Next, what theoretical knowledge I want for this lesson, for this cluster. Let's say I take some STEM, I take mathematics, and I take biology, and I take physics. All right. Not only that, but ethical stuff. What kind of ethical topics I want to cover in this particular cluster? Self-discipline, mindfulness, and maybe some mediation skills. All right. So then it again gauges my learning styles a little bit. How do I like to learn in this cluster? Or how do students in this cluster prefer to learn? Or we can leave anything balanced. I mean, okay. So now it offers me 3 names to select from, because again, I don't want users to write anything here to avoid, you know, problems with offensive language and you know, all that stuff. So I can select the title it suggests, and now we have this cluster formed. Now we have it. There it is. I have it created. Here's my class. Let me select an avatar for it, whatever. Now there are no learners here. I want to invite learners, and this is what you do by inviting new members. So since we're not using names, this is a completely depersonalized system. The only thing we can use here to find each other is this unique ID. There it is. So this unique ID is the only thing that really identifies you in this system, but not as an actual person. It's how you can find each other. So other learners can find me by this unique ID, and I can find other learners by other unique IDs. So all I have to do is in the class page, I want to invite members to this cluster. So let's say I already have someone's unique ID because they're my students. So I post here this unique ID, and boom, I find them, and I can send an invitation. But it says that this guy is already a member of my cluster. Right, because that's not the cluster that I've just created. So let me go to the cluster I've just created, and let's say I need some new learners in here, because it says no learners yet. So that's why I go to invite member, I click learners, because I can also invite other curators as teachers. So here's the learner I want to find, and I find them by their unique ID. And you see the new unique IDs will look like this. So they are a little more readable. There they are. And I send them an invitation. It says here that invitation sent successfully. So then if I log in as that learner now, I will see that invitation is there. So let me try that. So I log in as that learner. And I see that I still haven't created my learning persona. Let me do that. Again, it asks me some kind of things about my learning styles, how I mostly learn. It gives me some questions to ask about my emotional intellect, and there I go. So I have this learning persona now. And when I log in as that learner, I see that there's a notification that I've been invited to a cluster. Accept. And now as I accept it, I can see it in my clusters. So there it is. I am now a learner in this particular cluster. And now as a curator of this cluster, I can generate an interesting lesson for this learner. But let's invite more learners. Or better, I already have a cluster with many learners. So now I have only one learner in this cluster, but still I can already generate an interesting lesson for it. All I have to do is click Lesson Blender, and this is where we get into the sacred heart of EduBlender, which is the AI-powered lesson generator. So let me select what kind of, how many lessons do I need? Let's say one lesson, or it can be a series of 5, or there'll be more. There'll be like 100 lessons, depending on how much do you want to use AI right now. So let's say one lesson. Okay, now goals balance. That means both learners and the cluster itself has its learning goals. Like the learner himself or herself want to learn mathematics, but the cluster is basically formed to teach chemistry or science or other sciences. But anyway, you can balance out which goals will more prevail. So let's say I want both. I want learners' goals and I want clusters' goals. Again, it gauges what do you want to use more, auditory learning, kinesthetic, or everything in a balanced way, sort of. Okay, let me be more practical. And the next thing is fusion. This is the total invention and innovation in this platform, which means the balance between a linear approach to lessons and a mixed approach. Linear approach is old school, like one lesson was one subject. Like one lesson math, that means we do math most of the time. The more you go into a mixed approach, the more you can mix other subjects and other disciplines into one lesson. Let's say math and arts, physics and like literature, whatever you set in your learning goals. So also you can add your custom AI prompt, but that will be a paid feature. And so I want complete mix, let's say, and I generate the plan, and here we wait a couple of seconds. The AI will generate us this lesson plan. There it is. Detailed lesson plan, environmental conservation and sustainable practices. Interdisciplinary lesson on environmental conservation and sustainable practices. 9th grade. It encompasses science, social studies, language arts. 60 minutes. Objectives. Classify and understand the importance, develop practical strategies, etc., etc. And then it has basically description of your lesson. Next, the system suggests you choose one of 3 titles for this lesson, because again, we don't want users to write anything to avoid problems with language and stuff. So it generates everything you need. So we selected the title, and it says save it to lessons box, and we have it in the lessons box. There it is. This is my cluster's lesson box, and I can read all of the lessons in here. There are. And that's how EduBlender works, and it's one of the many things it can do for you as a student and a learner. So stay tuned for more. And if you want to be in the testing team, write me and I will give you the testing email and login. Because the EduBlender launches commercially in January, and you still have time to test all the cool features in the testing phase.